this week's news, Australian child migrants report to abuse inquiry. Shimon Peres calls for Pope Francis to lead united religions. And a whale of a tale on Britain's beaches.
This is InFocus Christian News and Current Affairs.
Hi, welcome to the program. I'm Kent Kingston, and at the news desk is Dannielle Synot. How are you, Dannielle?
I'm pretty good, Kent. How are you?
Yeah, pretty well. And I could be even better, it seems. Sue Rad, our nutritionist, will be in a little bit later, talking about how your diet might actually make the difference between preventing cancer or actually increasing your risk. So yeah, a few important tips there.
Yeah, she's sharing some amazing stuff, Kent, and even getting down to phytonutrients and just simple things, simple adjustments.
Breaking it down for us lay people.
That's right.
I'm also really looking forward to meeting Naomi Reid. She was a missionary to Nepal for many years and now a best-selling author and storyteller. Yeah, so that should be interesting.
Yeah. And stay tuned for that one, guys. She's a real goer.
Yep. After the news.
Thanks, Kent. More than 60 Australians are due to appear before a Northern Ireland government inquiry into historical institutional abuse. Those giving evidence are just some of the 140 or so disadvantaged children who were taken from church or state institutions in Northern Ireland and shipped to Australia, mostly after the Second World War. According to news.com.au, a number of those who were child migrants allege they were transferred without parental consent, were cut off from family members and suffered abuse in Australian welfare institutions. It's believed the Catholic Sisters of Nazareth order was responsible for 111 of the removals to Australia. The Northern Ireland inquiry will share the evidence it receives with the Australian Royal Commission into institutional responses to child sexual abuse. While Australia struggles with how to deal with irregular boat arrivals, a Christian couple from Malta have put a radical plan into action to save lives in their part of the world. Last month, Chris and Regina Catrimboni launched their migrant offshore aid station in the Mediterranean. Their ship, the Phoenix One, anchors in busy migrant shipping lanes and offers assistance to boats in distress. Over the last 3 months, it's believed that 1,600 people died trying to cross the Mediterranean from Libya to Malta. But thanks to the Catrimbonis and their team, that number is 300 less than it might have been. While international players are encouraging Ukraine and Russia to negotiate an end to their conflict, the head of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church has lashed out, saying Russian President Vladimir Putin is possessed by the devil. According to Sky News, Patriarch Filaret accused Putin of lying about Russia's involvement in the insurgency and compared him to Judas Iscariot. The comments are likely to exacerbate tensions between Ukraine's various ethnic and religious communities. Israel's former president, Shimon Peres, has asked Pope Francis to head up a united religions organisation that would counter the influence of religious extremism. According to Crux, Mr Peres says the United Nations has run its course and that an organisation of united religions would have more moral authority to speak to the issues of the day. Mr Peres said that lately conflicts are triggered by people who use religion to excuse their violence. He said that Pope Francis is the only world leader respected enough to end today's wars. So far, the Pope has not expressed any interest in putting the plan into action. Both Catholic and Protestant churches in Germany are reporting thousands of membership losses after a change in tax law prompted many to officially deny their religion. According to Reuters, German tax law diverts 8 or 9% of a taxpayer's income to the church of their choice. It seems the arrangement had been quietly accepted for many years, but a change of policy that now sees the church payments being connected with capital gains tax has triggered a sudden rush of church membership withdrawals, up to 50% from last year. And still in Germany, the legal case of a Christian homeschooling family has turned in their favour after a state appeals court agreed to return legal custody of the 4 children to their parents. A year ago, the Wunderlich children were forcibly removed from their mother and father, who insisted on homeschooling them despite there being no provision for home education in German law. According to Breaking Christian News, the children were returned after 3 weeks, but the government retained legal custody, forcing the parents to enrol their children in a local state school. Now that the parents have custody again, they're back to homeschooling and they've vowed to stay in Germany to continue the fight for recognition and reform. In another unusual legal case, this time in the US, the Adventist Church has urged the Supreme Court to recognise a Muslim woman's right to wear a religious headscarf at work. In 2008, Samantha Eloff was denied a job at clothing store Abercrombie & Fitch because her hijab was not in keeping with the dress code. Since then, according to Adventist Review, successive courts have ruled both in her favour and against her. The Adventist Church has filed a friend of the court submission urging for the principle of religious accommodation to be preserved.
This law could have a lot of negative effects. Primarily of interest to the Adventist churches, it would allow employers to effectively screen out not just Adventists but Jews and other Sabbatarians during the application process, and there would be no remedy for that.
Accusations of forced conversion in India have sparked tensions between Hindus and Christians, with 20 Hindus being arrested for desecrating a church. According to Adventist Review, hardline groups are accused of pressuring Christians to return to Hinduism, but they say the conversions were voluntary. Local media reports indicate that some Adventists from the so-called untouchable caste were discouraged that their low status did not improve while they belonged to the church. Police, however, arrested a number of people who were involved in using the Adventist church building for a reconversion ceremony. Evangelistic fervour is sweeping the island nation of Vanuatu, with more than 900 people indicating a decision to follow Christ, even before a series of public meetings had concluded. Crowds of 5,000 or more gathered each night in the capital Port Vila, while crowds of others watched the health and biblical presentations broadcast live at 6 official downlink sites and around the country via free-to-air television. Key speakers were Adventist Health Associate Director Dr. Chester Coomer and Evangelist Pastor Jean-Noel Adeline. Church leaders are awaiting the final results of the meetings but are anticipating overcrowding in a number of Vanuatu's Adventist churches. Bible storytellers in the UK have been getting creative, inflating a 15-metre plastic sperm whale on the beach to help tell the story of Jonah. Enthusiastic visitors can even be swallowed by the whale and hear the story from an insider's perspective, complete with singing, dancing and edible seaweed. But Bible Society UK, which is coordinating the project, has found that not everyone's ready to get on board. The beach location was the result of a failed attempt to get permission to set up the whale at London's Royal Parks. Well, there you go, people, a whale of a story. Kent?
Oh, Dannielle. There's nothing like a good pun to keep that program moving, is it?
No, well, it's usually you, Kent, so it was a refreshing change.
Well, it's nice to take turns. Hey, stay with us. After the break, James Standish will be in with his Freedom in Focus segment, talking about the difficult topic of the tone of our conversations about Muslims and Islam. Stay tuned.